What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Unqualified Film Bros. It's just me and George tonight, but I'm your lovely host for the evening. We're talking about a fun one, or I don't, well, yeah, fun, definitely fun, definitely interesting. It is Ethan Coen's Drive Away Dolls, just released in theaters, so that's the only place you can see it. It's not streaming yet. We'll get that out of the way up front. George, what do you think?
You said the thing. You said the line. Um,
It's tradition, man. Come on.
yeah, I wonder if I'll make the same line when Ben hosts the Dune episode next week. If he
Yeah.
says it. We don't know yet.
Mm-mm.
Um, so yeah, Drive Away Dolls. It looked really fun in the trailer.
Sure
And
did.
there are times in this movie where it is, in fact, a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Most of that I credit Margaret Qualley for. She is the best part of this movie by a long shot.
Fantastic.
Um, and we'll talk about her in a minute, but Ethan needs Joel. Like this movie could have been in the upper echelon of Coen Brothers movies, and Ethan going out on his own to do this one, it just it wasn't enough. I think there wasn't enough of that like classic Coen Brothers feel. You know, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and Big Lebowski, and No Country for Old Men. Three movies that I absolutely love. And, you know, when you think about the Coen brothers, you think about those three movies and, plenty of others. This one, I don't know if you'll think about it in, a few years, unless you're thinking about Margaret Qualley's career. You're not going to
Yeah.
remember Pedro Pascal, Coleman Domingo, and Matt Damon in this movie for sure.
Yeah.
It's it's fun, but it's forgettable. And I think what I blame that on is maybe failing to live up to its potential, sure, but also it's not long enough. And you and I talked about this when I walked out of the theater yesterday. I rarely complain about movies not being long enough because usually the movies we talk about are too long.
Long.
Uh, you and I talked about Poor Things, which unfortunately we weren't able to get to an episode on. Um, and we agree that that was about 25 minutes to half an hour too long. And it could have been a really tight hour 50, hour 55. Instead, it was bloated to about 220. We did do an episode on Argyle, which was 223, I think. Way too long.
Why was that movie 2.5 hours long?
No earthly reason to be.
Like, I
And
don't
then
even think the Kingsman movies were that long.
no,
They were all like hour 45, hour 50 or
I
something. It was like
think
the perfect length.
the
Maybe
first one
10.
might have touched
Or,
2 hours.
yeah, maybe.
But regardless, Drive Away Dolls, it's 84 minutes. And I think if it had been 104 minutes, a comfortable hour 44, very exact, I think you could have padded out what often feels like a pretty breakneck pace. And it could have given the characters more room to breathe. It could have given the story more room to breathe. Could have allowed for more of those really, really funny moments. And instead, we're just nonstop, move along. And suddenly the movie's over and you didn't even know what happened.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely felt that, when I left the theater, I was like, wait, what happened in that movie?
It was so
Uh,
quick.
Yeah, I mean, it even could have been like a short. I mean, you could have condensed all of it into something, that was 10, 12 minutes. Um, I mean, it
Yeah,
wouldn't have
yeah.
had the same impact, but you could get the same story that sort of came through. You could cut it down. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about performances. I mean, I think we can both agree that this was maybe not our favorite movie, but not something that was bad. I might need to see it again. I'm not going to go see it in theaters, but I might need to see it again
Yeah.
to flesh out
One
my
of the
thoughts more on it.
one of the perks about a short film not a short film, but a lower duration feature, a shorter runtime feature, such as this film, with such memorable performances as that given by Margaret Qualley, is that it'll be super rewatchable. You know,
Mhm.
you can throw it on when you're bored on a rainy afternoon. Hey, I remember this movie. Margaret Qualley's pretty good in it. Haven't seen her in anything in a while. Sure, I'll throw it on, and then in an hour and a half, I'll go do something else. So I think if it didn't have the performance given by Margaret Qualley, I think it would have suffered. Like Geraldine Viswanathan is very good.
Mhm. Yep.
She plays her character very well in terms of going from a very sort of buttoned up, almost stiff character to someone who's willing to go along with the zaniness of the story, uh, and someone who loosens up over the course of the movie.
Yep. I
Um,
mean, from what I was reading about her career, she has comedy chops, and that's kind of where she got her start. And so the transition into the final character, I guess, makes sense. It's kind of in her comfort zone. So it was, I guess it was not, if that is true, I don't know. I haven't seen enough of her films or shows. But if that is true, then I think she did a pretty good job of being sort of that stiff and buttoned up character, and played it well. And it didn't come off as forced or kind of or annoying. I mean, it still was funny, but it was funny because it was so dry, because it was so deadpan and serious, and it felt authentic to the way that the character was written too.
yeah, I've definitely, my familiarity with her is in comedy. She has spent a few years. I don't even know if the show has been renewed for what would probably be a fourth season by now. But she has done the TBS anthology series Miracle Workers with Steve Buscemi and Daniel Radcliffe, and she's pretty funny in that. Going up against two very talented comedic
Mm.
actors, uh, or not against, but playing off of and scene partners. She has definite comedic talent, and it works really well for this type of character here. Um, and maybe it's just the fact that she is playing off an outstanding performance by Margaret Qualley here,
Mhm.
that she doesn't feel as strong here as maybe she would in this role opposite a different actor, or opposite a different character type. So I enjoyed her performance, but it feels overshadowed.
I think that's 100% right. And speaking of overshadowed, why don't we actually talk about who did the overshadowing? Margaret Qualley. Feel like I've seen I feel like I've seen her in something, but I don't remember what. You may have seen her in something. You probably have, but
Yes, 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 yes. I can think of two roles that she's had right off the top.
mhm.
She had a supporting role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's
Um,
right. That's what.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I
she
know.
she
Yeah.
has
Okay.
the romantic connection with, or I don't know if it's romantic, but it's certainly spiritual and sexual chemistry with Brad Pitt's character Cliff Booth. She's a
Hmm.
part of the Manson family, living out at the
That's right.
ranch.
Yeah.
She and Sydney Sweeney and several others out there. Might be time for a
My
rewatch.
God.
Yeah, I watched that years ago, I mean,
Forgot.
right after it came out for the first
Yeah.
time, and then I saw it again for film school. But now we're going on like 2 years since the last time I saw that movie. So
Yeah, I started it. I started to watch it again actually recently. I got in like 20 minutes and then I just haven't come back to it. So I'll have to I'm gonna
it's
restart it and go through it
the
again.
last I'm just gonna go off on a brief tangent here. The last
Sure.
30 minutes of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I love some great movies, and I love me some great movie endings. But the last 30 minutes of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the greatest movie ending I have ever seen. It is my favorite
Pretty insane.
third act of any movie I've ever seen. It's close. there are a lot of, Empire Strikes Back is right there. But damn, Tarantino does it with this one. Anyway, yeah, she's done that. She had a supporting role in The Nice Guys, which I just rewatched recently, with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. And she's very good in that. The character plays it a little bit more, you know, a little more straight edge. I think
Mm,
as straight edge as you can be in a 70s neo-noir buddy cop action comedy. Uh, but this is the first time that I've really seen her sort of step out and shine as a star, as a lead,
hmm
and she nails it. Like the accent, which is not her natural accent. It's a little jarring at first, but then, 5 minutes in, you're like, okay, I can work with this. The character works. The accent works for the character.
Yep.
I can
And it
I can
stays
go along with
consistent
this.
throughout. It doesn't like she doesn't go in and out of it where it becomes a distraction. The accent itself is the distraction, but she stays with it, so it works.
Yeah, and it helps her become this character.
hmm
I think that was a really strong choice, either by Qualley or by Cohen.
Yeah. Yeah, this was the first time I've seen her in a starring role too, but coincidentally, I've seen both of those movies that you mentioned. So, um, I think it does kind of speak to how much, I guess she stepped out, and in such a big way.
I'm gonna pull up her letterbox right now to see what else she's done because I know I'm
Yeah,
missing something.
I mean, there's got to be something in there that's where she's the God.
Oh, she was the second patient of Willem Dafoe in Poor Things.
Mm.
Yeah, when Emma Stone's character Bella goes off on her grand adventure, he brings in another woman, and that's Margaret Qualley. Palo
Okay.
Alto, Death Note, Sanctuary, Maid. No, I have not seen her in anything else except those two movies we talked about and Poor Things.
Okay,
Uh, After this movie, I'm ready to see her do something else.
sure. Yeah. I feel like she's got to have something coming out. I mean, it feels like a good stepping stone to something
Absolutely, I was
bigger.
just
I
about to
mean,
say that.
you deliver this kind of performance in one of the Coen brothers movies, like you're gonna go somewhere.
Yeah,
And same thing with well, Pedro Pascal needs all the stepping stones he can get.
he is just he is always working,
Yeah.
and good for him because it couldn't happen to a better guy.
Mm-mm. I kind of want to talk about those some of the bigger names that faded into the background
Let's
a
do
little
it.
further because
Do it.
that was interesting.
That
You've
was
got
also brutal.
let's see, you've got Coleman Domingo,
Yup.
Matt Damon, Pedro Pascal. I think those are the four big ones,
Those are
right?
the four big ones. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of their role in this movie? I mean, you can pick one, but all of them kind of, like I said, fade into the background, which is good. It doesn't, they don't detract from Margaret Qualley. Maybe she's the one that's, because of her performance, taking it back from them. I mean, who knows? But
Well, I'm going to talk about Bill Camp
yeah.
because Curly is such a great bit part. Like, I almost wish that they hadn't brought him back, like suffering, almost dying later in the movie, and he had just had those two scenes. One with our two main characters, one with the two goons,
hmm
or I guess the two goons and Coleman Domingo's character, um, the boss. I forget what his character's name was.
I don't even know what his character's name is.
I don't think he had a name. I think he had
Yeah.
like a title.
Yeah.
Um, but even though this line was in the trailer, like my name is Curly, we just met that's too familiar. The deadpan delivery and like Bill Camp's had some good deadpan roles. He's had some good comedic
Hmm.
opportunities. But his delivery, and the miscommunication with Coleman Domingo about who was supposed to get the right car. There's so much in this performance in just a couple of scenes that he's a standout. And again, you talk about big names in small roles. These four guys, I mean, Coleman Domingo is probably featured more than the rest of them,
Hmm.
but you know, Bill Camp's great. And I mean, we got to talk about Pedro Coleman and Matt, but I'll let you choose which one's next.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna touch on Bill Camp too,
Go
just
for it.
because of the delivery of that one line. I definitely wanted to talk about that. I mean, like, imagine not only writing that line, being in the writer's room to see that thing written down on a piece of paper, and then to see it come to life in the way that it did in um in the actual film, and then being able to put it in the trailer too, because you know it's that good that it'll hold up. Like, that must be the best feeling.
That line is going to get people to go see this movie.
Yeah. Like, what does it mean? I mean, we know what it means, but like, why?
There's like there's no reason given for him to have that response.
No.
He's just like, I'm not gonna. You
Like,
can't call me that. And he doesn't give them another like, you
no,
can call me Mister or whatever. Like it's his
no,
name's
because like you
Curly.
think that's where it's going from the trailer. You think, oh, there's context surrounding it, obviously. No,
Nope, nope,
no.
none.
Anyways, those were my thoughts on the line and just how much I loved it. Let's go to the guy that got his head cut off in the first 5 minutes of the film.
Bro, the fucking corkscrew in the neck.
That was what a way to open.
That's so like I have a new fear now of someone sticking a corkscrew into my neck because just watching him like try to unscrew it,
And the squeaking.
how painful must that have been?
Ugh.
I don't even want to think about it. But in one scene, Pedro Pascal is Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
He's
You see him for what, like 45 seconds,
he's
a
clutching the
minute.
briefcase.
Yeah.
He talks to the bartender, checks his watch, leaves with an awesome coat draped over his shoulders.
Mhm.
And by the way, opening shot in the bar mirrored later on with Matt Damon waiting in the club in Tallahassee,
Mhm.
which great filmmaking choice. Loved seeing that. Picked up on it right away.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pedro Pascal, you know, you're not gonna say in 10 years, yeah, Pedro Pascal, best known for playing the Mandalorian and his work in Game of Thrones and The Last of Us and being Reed Richards. And also he was in Drive Away Dolls for the first couple of minutes and he gets his head cut off. You're not gonna say that.
No.
But in just a couple of minutes of screen time here, he is memorable enough, not even by name recognition. Like if another actor played this part, I don't think it would have been as good, but it still would have been a memorable chunk of this movie. Because what an opening that is.
Get a head cut off and then a bottle opener in the neck. In the
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Let's talk about Matt
Yeah.
Damon and then go to Coleman Domingo.
Yeah. Sure, Matt Damon, go ahead.
Certainly one of the weirder roles. I I saw Drive Away Dolls listed on Letterboxd with Deadpool 2, Thor Ragnarok, Thor Love and Thunder, and like one other movie, and I can't remember what it was. Uh, but the list was called Matt Damon Shows Up because unless you saw the trailer and know he's listed in the cast, I think his name might be in the opening credits, but by that time, you've probably forgotten that his
Right.
name was in the opening credits.
Yeah.
Uh, he's not in this movie until the third act, except his picture is shown on a billboard in the second act. But regardless,
Hmm.
uh, pretty wacky for a or pretty like unserious role to take for Matt. I don't know. Jimmy Kimmel would have a field day with me saying that. Uh, but the man wants his, how do I phrase this? He wants his replicated dick back, which, as a U.S. senator from a conservative state, I mean, I would understand that he would want it back for reputation and for security. Why does he have it in the first place?
Why does he have one of a current Supreme Court justice?
I want to know which justice it is.
Yeah, I don't. I really don't.
I mean, it's probably set in that universe. It's probably a made up name,
Yeah. Mm.
but yeah, current owner of an NFL team. Like,
Yeah. I
I
mean
don't
the
know.
whole
For everything teased in this trailer about
yeah.
what's in the briefcase, for it to be five dildos, that that almost took me out of the movie, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted it to be cash. I wanted it to be drugs. I wanted it to be weapons. I wanted it to be,
Like
sensitive
diamond like
information.
something, yeah.
It's it almost makes the movie worse. And it might make the movie worse for it to be something so silly.
I mean, I don't know if it makes it worse. For me, it felt like they were trying too hard to make it not like a cookie cutter sort of
Mistaken
like
identity road trip crime comedy, yeah.
yeah, and like that they very easily could have fallen into that, but I feel like even without the dildo stuff, like everything up until right before we know exactly what's in the briefcase, they still hadn't fallen into that trap. And even if it was like classified information or money or whatever, it would still make sense, but like the movie's still pretty crazy regardless, just to the way the style that it was made in and everything.
Yeah.
So it I feel like they would have still been able to escape at least uh, some of that sort of cliche
Yeah.
criticism. But
And Coleman Domingo does a great job sort of keeping the movie grounded
mm-hmm.
because he
Which also
plays,
kind of threw me for a loop when they pulled out the dildos. I was like, wait a second.
yeah, a little bit. But like he plays someone so, oh, sorry, last note on Matt Damon. It's Matt Damon. I'm gonna have a good time watching him.
Yeah.
But Coleman Domingo, he's almost like the most cliche character in a movie like this. He's the head goon for the main bad guy who will stop at nothing with, his two henchmen to recover, you know, the uh the briefcase of destiny. And yet he delivers a performance that fits right in with the world created by Ethan Coen here.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, he's so good though. I mean, he's good in everything that I see him in.
Is he
So
going to win an Oscar this weekend? Probably not.
probably not.
Very, very good in Rustin.
I
He's
haven't
not going
seen
to
it,
win.
but I've heard very great things. So
I
have
watched
to see.
the Oscars highlight reel for his performance in
Okay.
that movie. I have not seen the film yet, but from the couple minutes clip that I saw of just him, tremendous.
Hmm.
And it's disappointing that 4 out of 5 in this category are not going to win because it's so strong this
Hmm.
year. But we'll save that for our Oscar predictions episode.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Well, I mean, speaking of performances, I think the most important thing that I took away from this is that Margaret Qualley is on her way to do some really interesting projects in the
Great
near
stuff.
future. Yeah,
She is
some
going to
really
do
good,
great things.
and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's always great to see younger actors and actresses kind of make it in something like this.
She's stepping up.
Uh, yeah, it's really, really cool to see. And so definitely go see this if you want to
Before we
see
wrap up,
yeah, what's up?
we got to talk about the Miley Cyrus acid trips.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah.
And I'm
Because
sorry, I know you were wrapping us up there, but right at the buzzer, I had to. Until you see the de-aged Matt Damon in the third or fourth one of those, it's why are we spending 45 seconds of an 84-minute movie on, colors and lights and, patterns animated all around? Like, let's get back to the plot of the movie. This is a weird transition. And then the first time Miley Cyrus's face shows up, you're like, holy shit, that's Miley Cyrus. What's she doing here? And then you sort of start to get the connection with Matt Damon's character in the last one, and then you get the explainer, and it's like, oh, so those were done on purpose. It
yeah,
was
I
it
don't
was
know. That was wild. Because they did a lot of weird things with some like lights and I don't even
transitions. The
transition. Yeah, it
scene
wasn't
sort of going back and
yeah,
forth and back and forth, and
it was a lot of fun. It was cool. But
yeah,
the first time it
definitely.
happened, I was like, whoa, okay.
It was a very uniquely edited film, and I think that works to its advantage.
Yeah, it would have to be to make it as interesting as it was. I think otherwise it would definitely fall back into that trap that we were talking about of like, okay, well, we've seen this before.
All right, I'm going to
I've
ask
definitely
this
confirmed I have not seen this. I have not seen anything like this before.
100%, and it's unlike any other movie that we've talked about on the pod.
It is a unique film, and I do mean that in a good way, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. I gave it 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I would see it again.
Yeah.
But I got to ask, since Ben's not here to stop me from asking this question, a year from now, if this film were nominated for an Academy Award, which one would it be nominated for?
It's got to be for an acting role for Margaret Qualley. Um,
I could see it.
I mean,
I can.
if not, then probably I don't know. Is it an adapted screenplay or is it original? I have no
I
idea.
think original. I think Ethan just came up with this
Okay.
in,
I could
in his
see
own
him
little
getting
mind.
nominated for that too. I don't think he would win, but I could see it getting nominated because it's interesting. It's different enough.
Doesn't matter. Dune Part Two is going to sweep everything next year.
It's gonna win so many awards, dude.
Dude, this is I haven't seen, and I hate to admit this, but I'm glad I'm doing it when Ben and Declan aren't here. Haven't seen the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Dune Part Two is it going to have the Oscars of Return of the King? And I think it might, because Part
I think
One won like 6 or 7 Oscars, and it
yeah,
was not nearly as good as Part Two. It's very
yeah.
good, not nearly as good as Part Two.
No, part
But
two
we'll talk about Dune Part Two next week.
next week. Well, yeah, I mean, go see it for Margaret Qualley. I mean, I don't think we can say it enough. She's phenomenal. So go enjoy a really stellar performance. And
And
the
the movie
movie's
doesn't
good too.
it doesn't stick around too long. Like,
No,
you don't have to make an
go enjoy
afternoon
it.
out of going to the movies or an evening out of going to the movies. You can do something else
Mhm.
too.
Yeah,
Um, check it out. I think we both recommend it.
yeah, we do. And I speak for everybody else on the pod that are not here. They also recommend it. They told us to say it though too.
Yeah, scheduling conflicts is why they couldn't be here tonight.
Hmm. All
Well,
right. Well,
actually,
we'll see
it
you
was it was
tomorrow.
scheduling conflicts for Declan. Ben's on load management,
Well, we'll see you next week for Dune Part Two. That's going to be a fun episode. And
and we will
I know
see
we're all
you,
looking forward to that one.
I think, tomorrow or the next day for Oscar predictions.
Ooh, yeah. Good night.
Good night.